is phase two. We have given service access now. Phase two is currently in construction. It should be over in Jan or so. So these are the flow plans. As you could see, we have tried to locate gardens for the lower level, adjacent to all the classrooms. And the upper levels will have regular, normal, more structured way of learning with classrooms. So the building starts to look like with all these layers. So again, here we had a little reference of the neighboring buildings which we studied, and most of the temples around there. There is 2, 3 temples which is really old, the BC, the 3rd century, 4th century temples, which was done at different period of time, and many buildings also have this kind of layered organization. Basically, you have like rubble or heavy stones at the lower level, bricks or clay for structural purposes, for other reasons. But it's very interesting because most of the villages are kind of exposed to the way it is. So this also was a direction for us to start. Gave some idea of context to be integrated into the building. So this is how the building starts to look. This is the rear side of the building where you have these little overhangs, and we also wanted all the walls to stop at 8 feet, and initially had no just a mosquito mesh or a net mesh on the top, so that all the hot air is completely dissipated. But then because it's a very dry area, there's so much of dust that we were not able to do that. So we had to have like little coverings, and then top hung windows on all 4 sides which can have cross ventilation, all this. Again, the jali, the work, how the layers can, wherever there's a garden, it becomes a jali, which again has a little cools the air that comes in. This is the internal covered space that we have, and this is a small stage which we have created inside, which can have, again, little events. Now they're using it extensively for karate class or anything that they want to be, chessboard, carom. And the kind of light, the circular thing, perforations bring is really nice. Over a day, you can see different shadows cast. And when a kid comes from one class to the other class, it's like a nice break or a little refreshing thought before someone can go to the next class. And it kind of plays every day, and every time it's kind of gives a different atmospheric effect there. Jalis, we removed the grills and tried to replace it with jalis and have a similar effect with kind of tied into the language of the building. These are little kindergartens where all the classes are interconnected and visually also connected, so that a teacher can have monitor to most of the other classes. These are the materials, how we deal with doors and edges like that. This is the interior space. I think that's our last slide as well, I guess. This is just one more. So we just wanted quickly to, what we tried in North Star is where we tried a little module, like, from a small part which converted into a whole. Whereas here it was the reverse of having a whole being converted into a small part. Going to a simple module. So we kind of learn both the exercises of how to go about it. And the main thing was the site that kind of driven us to get into the idea that we are trying to do. So this is what we kind of learned, how to go about both the process in the project. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. Sorry if you have taken a little more
Thank
time.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Architect Santosh and Architect Raja, for that wonderful presentation. We now welcome Architect Kinera from Studio Inscape to please share his screen.
I hope you all can see the screen. Can you all see the screen?
We can see it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So, good evening, everyone. So, thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. So, I'm architect Kinara from Studio Inscape. So, we are a very small and young design firm based in Hyderabad. So, we're excited to share some of our work and how our design approach is usually. So I would want to start with, the very basics of architecture, where we talk about an approach to design and, how it starts at a very initial stage. So approach to design is very much, something that we go through our past experiences and the way we have been taught. So in a very traditional Indian society that we see, where it was more of a guru shishya system, the knowledge absorption was more like, through a process of osmosis. So, it's just, how the guru has taught you, you start absorbing it in a similar way. So, also architecture, taking it as, treating it as art, basically. So it has been, we see that arts is something that has passed down from generations to generation. So the kind of design sensibilities which are there are, engraved in our genes by default. So it is more, something that is with a sense of touch, smell, and the way we feel. So with the modern day teaching and approach where we come in the today's society, it is a lot of importance is given to individual judgment. Okay, so we actually get to justify what we are doing, or it's more of an individual thought or a feeling that we are trying to put across. So I think especially with the globalization that is happening right now, all buildings or say build forms have started to look same. So we need to strike that balance. We need to start empathizing with our surroundings, basically what we call as contextual architecture. And I think we have to move forward in that direction. And I'm very sure all of us agree to it that architecture is not something that somebody can teach you, or somebody can tell you what to do, what not to do. We are only taught how to think, or and I think that's how it should be. So this is how we usually approach our design. So the design process is not just about finding a solution to a particular problem. Sometimes we do get sites which are, where the clients are very open. We do not really have problems, or we don't have, what do you call, any specific issues or things to pick up from the site. During those times, we generally, we start looking for a particular context. Okay, so we have to start empathizing with our surroundings. We need to understand the way we are feeling when you're standing there. Okay, and then you obviously have to learn a lot of things from the surroundings, pick up whatever you can. And there's a lot of overlap study that happens in the design, where when you actually do a overlap study, there's a lot of complexities that come in. So we basically are confused. Okay, so there are a lot of permutations, combinations, and as you all know, design is never a linear process. It is you come back and forth and you study, and then you learn, you unlearn. So the whole design process at the end, what is important is to simplify your thoughts. So when you want to solve something, you need to simplify, you need to unlearn, you need to observe what is necessary and just leave what is not necessary in solving it. So we believe, as in we are in search of modern regionalism. So every day, we are trying to progress through this concept. So we have say we are not treating, we only want to go with something that is regional. And, it's not that we can, clients need the amenities, they need the modern amenities of the present day. So we cannot go something that is too old or too traditional or something that is actually not workable. Okay, so at the same time, we cannot be too modern. We can't leave our roots, and we cannot, just do something that is based on function or something that is based on globalization. So we're trying to find this balance where modern regionalism. So as we very much believe in this, what Kevin Makra has said, regional without modern is reactionary, and modern without regional is insensitive. We lose our sensibilities and sensitivity there. And I think as architects, for us to have sensitivity is very, very important. So so coming to this, we are very much into sustainable architecture, and this is something that is there in us by default. We are very, very sustainable in terms of our lifestyle by default, especially Indians. So we know how to use a particular commodity in multiple ways. Let's take an example of a palm tree or a coconut tree. We like literally use the the bud to the fruit to the leaf to the bark to the root, everything. We know how to use a particular thing in multiple ways. So we wanted to take this concept forward of using a same material in various forms, in various ways that we can. And that is what I wanted to show you in this. So just as an example, in one of the projects that we did, we used CSEB blocks, where the same brick was basically used for the walls. We had used it as a jali instead of a grill. We had used it as a main surface for a line washed wall. The same thing, yeah. So the same brick was used for the flooring as well. So if you take up another material, CRS, compound rubber masonry, we've used it for walls again. We use it as structural element. We've used that as the plinth. So various ways how we could use a single element, single material. The same here, cement POCM finish for the flooring, for skirtings, for wall finishes. In the same way how we've used tandoor flooring that is available, in a place very near to Hyderabad. How we've used it as a cladding material, how we've used it as flooring, and flooring also two different types, how we've used it in living and how we've used it in balconies. So we very much believe, sustainability is no more a choice or an option, basically. So it's a necessity. So whatever we design has to be sustainable. There's no question of it has been very much used in a fancy way these days. Sustainability, people take it as something that is something that is great that we're doing, or something that is different that we're doing. But I don't think it is that way. It has to be any project, or not just architecture. Our way of living has to be very sustainable, and I think we have to work towards it. So we wanted to talk about another misconception people have. A lot of clients of ours also, sometimes they see our projects and then they start asking, okay, you work on sustainable projects, so your material or your overall cost must be very less, and we want to have our house in so and so budget. So I think people should understand that sustainability doesn't mean low cost materials or techniques. So it's basically we're not trying to do anything that is false, or not something that is we're cutting down on the over pompousness or over exaggerated elements, or claddings, and we're just trying to be true to the material. Okay, a material, when you're using it, you should feel it. You should be able to understand the characteristics that the material has, and that is what should reflect in it. Yeah, so this is one of the project that we wanted to talk about. So it's a house designed in a farm. It's a farmhouse, basically. So the client was very much into organic farming, and we wanted this house also to evolve organically. We didn't want to keep it very, very rigid. Okay, so they had this interest towards collecting antiques, and we had to fit in all of these things into the house that we were going to design. So it's a very small house of 2,600 square footage. So the client couple is a very interesting couple who, as usual, as any couple, they had very contradictory views. Where the lady wanted a vernacular, a courtyard house, and the husband wanted a very linear house. So it was a challenge for us to combine both these into a single plan. So we actually identified a very old neem tree. It's a mango farm, but there was a neem tree where we had identified, and we had basically weaved the whole house around it. So yeah, so basically this house, tries to use the nature as its backdrop. We didn't want, the house to overwhelm the surroundings. So if you see, we've used, inbuilt benches, fixed bench at a particular point in the living room, where these windows were ergonomically designed, basically, so as you could actually lean over the window sill and you could have a look at the outside farm. So the house is basically a combination of both RCC and the load-bearing structure. So you could see the various layers how we've used. We've used palm wood as the rafters and purlins. We've used mangrove roof tiles, and for a portion of the house, we've done RCC slabs which are exposed. So we love to do a lot of activity analysis, and if you see this house, this is actually when we have used the space. We had gone with a group of friends of ours, and you can see the way it is being used. So this living room of the house accommodates large group of people. It accommodates smaller group of people where they could have conversation, and it could actually, a single person, okay, one person could just sit there on the bench, enjoy the view outside, and not be, overwhelmed by the surroundings, and just to have that. It's more or less like a happy space. So even at night, if you see this, the second picture where, people just used it as an extended bedroom where you could, just put beds, and a number of people could sleep there. So this is basically a kind of a multi-functional, multi-utility space that we wanted to design. And I think, when we actually used it, we found that, we were successful enough that we were able to do this. So just another few glimpses of how a user, the user experience was there. So, this is another rare entry of the house where, the owner actually wanted a space where he could interact with his farm workers. So the material, major material that we had used was CICB bricks, compressed stabilized earth blocks. So it was made with the mud from the site itself. So we had used all the wood that we used was basically reclaimed wood. The slabs were exposed. We had whitewashed walls in the bedrooms just to make it a little more cozy and not very rustic. So these are some of the images that you could just have a look. So this is the living room that I was talking about, where it's used as a multi-utility space. So this is the dining area overlooking the courtyard. So all the columns that we have here are also, they've been sourced and reused from another house. So these are the open washrooms, semi-open washrooms that we've tried inculcating in the farmhouse. So these are the bedrooms. the walls were whitewashed here. So another project, it's an ongoing project that we wanted to show just to, show our design approach and how we go about a project. So this is another farmhouse for a huge family of 30 members. So they came to us saying that, even a small gathering of ours is like for 100 people. So it's a 30-acre farm again. So the challenge here was to find the right location for them to build the house in this 30-acre land. So the owner actually is a lot into permaculture, and he had this huge rainwater harvesting place where he had almost collected about 1 lakh liters of water. So we chose that as the frontage of this whole house. So we give a lot of importance to the climate when we are designing. So we usually start from analysis of the climate around. So this is a Mahani table that we have used to actually come up with the final to the final conclusions that we could analyze and use it in this house. Also, we worked on various shading systems, and at what time of the day, what time of the season, what kind of shading system work, and what is the percentage of openings that you require, and the length, and how much the shading be. So we do a lot of analysis like this before we actually start off with our actual concept. So this is the base plan of our the farmhouse. So it's almost a 15,000 square footage house. So it has a lot of these interesting spaces where basically all these spaces have their own private courts. Like the bedroom has their own courts. From the veranda we have another court. From there's another mandapa or a living room that we have tried to detach from the actual house so that people could actually walk around the house and experience it before reaching an actual point. So this space, as you see, is actually the rainwater harvesting collection pond that they have used. And we have tried to create a kind of a approach. From the house, you actually get down and you get to use the rainwater harvesting pond as a actual water body. So we have tried, experimenting with various models. So this is the rainwater harvesting pond. So this is the concept. We've just started with the project. And this is the mandapa that we had tried to create because these people, the family itself is 30 members. So they wanted to celebrate every occasion that they're going to have in their life here. So we created this a mandapa-like structure where it would overlook the water, and they could have their, birthday parties or, small ceremonies that can happen at this place.
This is a major block in one of the arts college located in Amlike, which is about 80 to 100 kilometers from Madurai. It's basically a renovation. The block size is about close to 400 feet by 40 feet. And it is oriented towards east and west. So the major challenges started when we started observing the existing building orientations, and since it is located in highly temperature conditions, we have to kind of come up with completely new verandas and a completely new roof system, leaving the existing walls. In few of the areas. If you sectionally, what we try to do here is, this is the actual block what we have done. If you see on the left, this is a corridor which is about 4.5 feet. That was the existing. Later we increased the size considering the length of the block, and also created some of the levels to make it more interesting. And the materials, whatever we used in this for the roof, floors, and walls, even the structural member is completely something which is available around the site, about like 40 to 50 kilometers. Basic materials like cement, red terracotta tiles, and stones, and MS roof. The left side is the existing block before renovating. The right side one is after the renovating. In some places, we came up with this interesting terracotta jalis to cool down the air and break the monotony of the whole building.
So this is a residence near Kakinada. Basically, it's a 250-year-old house. The idea was to create an extension with all modern amenities for this 250-year-old house. Basically, the structure initially was a single room with veranda on all 4 sides. Initial concept was to leave the existing structure untouched and create a separate linear block to accommodate the extra bedrooms and other spaces. Later on in this process, we realized that the new block might take the attention away from the existing house and the possibilities of the space being unused. So then we dropped the idea of having a separate new block, and we tried to pull in the functional spaces into the existing verandas and move the rest of the spaces into an upper floor. So this would allow us to create the extended spaces without increasing the overall footprint. And coming to the material palette and all, wooden rafters of the sloped roofs from the old structure were reused to create the flat roof. The new extended sections were also used. Mud blocks with lime finish were used for the walls. This combination of materials allowed the house to have a comfortable indoor environment both in summers and winters. It also considerably reduced the chance of termite attack, since lime here is a natural insecticide. For the sloped roofs, lime sandwiched between 2 terracotta tiles was used. Basically, the existing building materials and material palette were used to retain the feel of the space.
So if you see this picture actually that you see is the main entrance of the house. It doesn't have a very typical gate kind of a concept. So this is actually the entrance of the house, and then you from there on you walk through the landscape and then actually enter the house. So these are other glimpses inside the house. We actually didn't get to document the whole house as of now. We are yet to go and document the house. So we tried to retain as much as essence and the feel of the space that was before as much as possible. So a few more, we've also tried, doing the furniture design by ourselves. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you so much, Architect Kinera, for that wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
As we open this session out to conversation and discussion, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome and introduce our moderators for the day. Our first moderator is a third-year architecture student currently studying at the RV School of Architecture, Bangalore, Aditi Garod. Aditi joins us from Bangalore. Aditi has been a part of our Design United conference team for the very first conference titled Small Measures, Great Impact that happened last month. Our second moderator for the day is Sahil Jaiswal, who is joining us from London. Sahil is working as a graduate architect at Sir Robert McAlpine in London, UK. He has been an integral part of the architecture team working on various projects and different REBA plans of works. Sahil did his master's in sustainable architecture studies from the University of Sheffield. Welcome to Design Conversations, Aditi and Sahil.
We request our attendees to post any questions in the chat box below. Thank you. Over to you, Aditi and Sahil.
Thank you, Sakshi. I would like to say that both the presentations by both of you were very insightful. And to say that I learned a lot is pretty much an understatement because it was a great inspiration.
Thank you. Thank you, Aditi.
I could say the same thing. It's been a learning curve, so I really appreciate the work that you guys have done and actually been an education for us, basically.
Thank you, Sahil.
Okay. So I'll start off with the questions. So actually, my first question is to the studio Inscape. Yeah. So the question is, since your team is context driven, how important is it for your team to have sustainable design incorporated in your design stage rather than having it as an afterthought?
See, afterthought is something that, when you only work on material, that is when we could say it is an actual afterthought. See, sustainability is not, generally people tend to confuse this. They tend to confuse that sustainability is just about the material and, just about the kind of things or materials you want to use in the building. But I think it's more about the whole design process itself, the approach to design. Let's say you're orienting your building in an actual different or opposite direction than you're supposed to do. That itself increases the whole temperature of your building, or the wind direction is wrong. So, your building is actually started to heat up, or, when you actually want to cool it down, it's working the other way around, which actually increases your energy consumption. And that is actually not sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? So when you actually start designing it in your process, as we've shown you, we actually decide initially on the orientation of the building. We start right from there. So it's very, very, very important.
Thank you.
My question is to Shanmugam Associates. Each design that you showed in the presentation had a unique sense of light that governs the quality of space. So could you explain how you brought this about, and also what other elements of nature do you use to elevate your designs?
I think the sense of lightness should be usually perceived only when you have a sense of darkness. If you look at the old Dravidian temples, there is always the difference in hierarchy of spaces, that you have to enter through a small door and then reach another space. And then finally you have to go to Garbhagriha where the space is small. So likewise, we try to play with hierarchy of space in most of our projects, where you have a single level corridor, and then you go to a really high level floor space, auditorium, something like that. And each space has its indirect lighting or direct lighting, depending upon how big upon the scale of and proportion of the space. If you look at the Rane, we know that courtyard, the central courtyard, is really huge. But at the same time, if you look at that huge space, need 1/4 of the lighting to make it more, interesting. But at the same time, it is enclosed by classrooms and toilets and corridors on all sides. So we thought, why can't we have a small perforation in the roof? Because that is courtyard is going to be assembly space, and the client was very particular about covered wall. So we created perforation in the roof, and then that perforation actually helped in venting out the hot air during summer. So I think this is something what we achieved in that. Santosh,
Yeah, no, we also try our best to avoid direct light. Like in a place like most of the projects we do is it will be always like a reflected light or a indirect light. So which, because along with the light you also get heat, which is not very nice for a public building. So we try our best to address light and shade in this particular way, where it's not direct. We have this little rule also. We try to have at least 1/4 of a space to be ventilated in any school or anything of the area. So that also is like an indirect rule which we have, and then how to solve about going with that ventilation per se. And it all kind of gives in a way. Like Raja said, we look at different spaces also. Each space to have a different light quality, over a period of a time or a day. And mostly site and the program kind of gives us a direction, and we tag along that. Yeah.
Thank you. Sahil, you're muted.
Oh, thanks for that. My second question is to Shanmugam Associates, is that a study of macro and micro climate study definitely helps in towards design stage, but has there been an unexpected challenges that you might have had to which might have happened, which made you rethink your approach in any of the projects that you might have done?
I think to achieve this micro or macro climate, we are heavily dependent on the two factors. One is build form and the materials what we use to achieve the climate. The second one is mostly 50% we depend on landscape, the nature. So in the first build form or material, we know how the material works. We know how to fine tune it, reduce the temperature and everything. But when it comes to the second one, the landscape, sometimes we always have challenges like time. We have to wait at least minimum 3-4 years to achieve that microclimate in that building. For example, if you look at the North Star School, it was built in 2015 and 16. But we could take it actually completely finished only in 2019-20 to let the trees for the Gurukulam concept to for a tree to grow inside that building. If you look at the images, there's a second floor with creepers. Those are the things which change the microclimate, right? For that's such a hard Rajkot climate. So we have to really wait. That I think that's a challenge. And in the waiting time, sometimes we found some plants which are not suitable. Like the creepers what you see in the image right now is replaced one. The first we tried bougainvillea. The bougainvillea was not fit for that wind. It grew up to 2-3 feet and then it started falling apart. So these are the challenge we are not sure about how to know, especially if nature, never, you cannot predict what happens with nature. So we have to wait and see. Time is particularly challenge in microclimate. We have to wait. We have to really wait to understand how it changes. And then we have to change our mistakes, what we made before.
Well, thank you for that. I've got a second question to that, is that as a as a practicing architect for you've been practicing for about 38 years as a company, but has your approach from that time to this time has been um, has been uh, evolved basically?
When a firm is there for that long a time, no, there is a lot of chances that a firm could be branded to doing this one particular kind of architecture, or there is a chance of you getting labeled as doing only this kind of architecture or something. So when you have second generation or new people joining an established firm, it always gives an opportunity for the firm to reinvent itself and try to do, because you have a lot of knowledge at hand, you have a lot of experience at hand. So how do you want to use that? Like, what is the direction you're looking at to do with all this? See, you have a structural engineer at an office. We had to have, because when we started the office back then, no one knew what an architect was in a tier 2 city. Most of them, they call us as an engineering firm, like, until like 2000, they call us engineer Shanmugam. So, but slowly we're trying to use all that and see how to go about it. So I think it's a good thing, but you should have this perfect balance with all the the new ideas. Whoever people coming in, we have a lot of interns also is given us very good work, good ideas. So as long as you're collaborative and the whole environment is open to take all this, from your senior to lower, I think it'll be a very nice way to work. And rather than, again, not to confine ourselves to one particular design, like so that is what we have been trying, at least to shed off any particular image of this is what our buildings will look like.
Thank you.
My next question is to Studio Inscape. Looking at your designs, you showed us like pictures of the way that you have detailed the flooring and the same material you've used as cladding. So it's evident that you put in a lot of work to these details. Would you say that your approach is from a part to a whole or a whole to a part?
It works both ways. Sometimes, I think it doesn't always have to be, you only start designing from a plan, or sometimes it's interesting to start designing from sections or start designing from details. So you actually start from a part of it. There is a small core central idea from which we start weaving around, and then the actual whole process happens. So, what happened?
I mean, that's how it happens.
Thank you.
My question to Studentscape is that what are some of the challenges as an architecture practice you have faced, and how have you adapted to the situation, especially during COVID period?
That is one question we are being asked a lot, and it is
So,
quite difficult.
yeah, so I believe it's a learning curve as well.
Yeah. So I think we as architects by default, we love, everything that, we need to feel anything that we're doing. We need to have that, you be it with the sound, with the kind of texture or anything, right? So when you actually start working from home, it's very difficult to interact. And phones are something that are very irritating. They disturb us. And that was the only source of, communicating with all our team members, or Zoom calls were the only way that we were interacting with them. So right from, I would say, organizing our files, we had to restructure everything, right? So maybe more of, we started digitalizing our work more. We started, as I said, reorganizing our file system, and we got to learn a lot of technology, which we are slightly bad at. Yeah. So yeah, I think we did a lot of virtual presentations since there was not much of work going on site, but we had that learning time. We did a lot of presentations that which we never did actually. Virtual presentations was something that we never ever tried, and that was something new to us, and it kind of worked out fine. But I think as architects, it doesn't work out like it doesn't work out every time that you do things online, and presentations and talks, yeah, good, that is actually time saving. You can sit at your place and happily do it. But when you actually want to interact with your teammates, you want to discuss, and you want to all these things are something that we actually like doing it in office, yeah, or in people.
Thank you.
My question to Shanmugam Associates is along the same lines, like taking the current situation we are in with the pandemic. You had shown in the presentation that your interaction with workers or local workers is a lot because they started doing the jali work the brick jalis, that all those details. So currently, right now, how is the interaction between these workers and the local communities?
I think you're asking about how it is right now or how it is done before.
If there is any change from before to now, basically how it was done before and right now, since we're in a like lockdown situation, how is it done right?
Yeah, if you look at the images, like how you mentioned before, like 3 years before, we made drawings for any detail. We go to site and we might have issues, and that particular project we arrived at the jali pattern only after interacting with the site mates and laborers, everyone. It was very useful, we always miss those interaction nowadays. But now it is hard, it's not how to say, it's hard for us to go frequently visit site. But nowadays these people have their smartphones, so we do have this how to say, this Zoom calls or video call or anything. We try to interact with them. So I don't. But the problem is time. I think it's not a problem of communication, but the time. If we go to site, we can solve the problem then and now. But sometimes it's hard for us to explain no matter to get their idea about the detail and to convey our idea about the detail. It's hard to convey it in communicate in camera, But if you are there in person, it is really helpful. We had really had some fights with the site. Verbal fight with those mates, and yeah, they will say it won't work, it doesn't work, and then we have to sit them, ask them, do it in the way how we want, and how they it's easy for them to use the material and make it fast work. But that's not happening with this new technology or digitalized one. We find it a little bit difficult.
Let's just hope that this gets over a bit quicker. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my last question to both of the architectural practicing firms is that, as an architectural practice, do you feel that the mentality of clients or environment-driven designs has been more accepting than ever, or is it the clients themselves want design driven rather than an architect influencing it on them?
Do we go first?
Yeah.
Please, by all means.
Yeah, sorry. So, yeah, we do have both sets of clients, but definitely I think there is a change. They have been more accepting, and we do have clients who are, specifically coming to us now, saying that we want environmentally sustainable designs. In fact, sometimes it has actually, shocked us to, we had a client recently who says, okay, see, you are very free to use what you want, the material you want, sustainable material, the kind of techniques you want. I'm giving you free hand, do what you want. So we were actually shocked, okay, we do have these sets of clients as well, right? Who kind of, yeah, there are restrictions. There could be budget restrictions, or there could be, restrictions in some other forms, but they are giving us a free hand in terms of the kind of material or the kind of sustainable designs that we want to do. And also on the other side, contradictory to this, I would say, we also get a certain section of clients where they're like, okay, I want this cladding material, or I want my interiors to be extravagant. Okay, and we as architects, we know that we don't want to treat interiors as a separate subject, or it's a part of the design that we are doing. It's all inclusive thing. So they say, okay, my interiors, I want it this way or that way. To such section of clients, it's very difficult to explain, and I would say a major chunk of our time or our effort goes into educating them, and which we're very happy to do actually. Even if we are able to change one or two people or one or two clients, into the direction that we want to go into, we are very happy about it. But I should say, overall, I think it's a lot more accepting. People are, they are sensitive enough to, start using environmental sustainable designs these days.
Especially after.
Especially
Thank you.
after COVID. Yeah, even more.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Over to Shanmugam Architects, please.
Yes.
I have the same question for you as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
In terms of the sustainable practices, yeah, we always felt that every building should be in that direction, or it should take that path, and it's kind of a job of us to educate the client, or at least tell them the benefits of going that way. And it can't be like a added value or an added thing that you put into a product, or a project. So we feel even if you do a single room or anything, it has to follow these kind of simple basic parameters. So, and clients are definitely, if you put them all these factors and say, are you sure that you want to take this path, cut down 100 trees, or cut down, you want to add so much heat gain into the building. So once you start giving them that information, rather than just on a verbal, if you start giving them little more documented analysis of a project, people really are open nowadays to accept this. So I feel it's our part to educate the client and tell him the possibilities of because once it's done, they'll definitely start to experience it, and then they really understand it. But till then, I think it's a major job of us to convince them to make it happen. Raja, if you want to add anything, yeah.
No, that's fine. I think perfect what you have answered.
Yeah.
So,
That's
Thank you.
My last question is also open for the both of you. As practicing architects who have this very strong sense of vernacular and sustainability, is there any particular architect or individual that you're greatly influenced by?
So I
Jeffrey
think
Bawa.
yeah, Baba.
true. Love his work.
Yeah, very.
So only Jeffrey Bao or any other person as well?
I think also Vijay Jain, Korea, Charles Korea. See, architecture is multidisciplinary. You can have a lot of liking towards different kinds of work, but being contextual to the kind of work we do, I think Southeast Asian architects especially. So with that context, I think Jeffrey Baba, Vijay Jain.
Yeah.
I think we also like Larry Baker's work. Both try to do something similar to their own regional areas. If you look at Bawa's and Laurie Baker works, it's tried to be more sustainable and at the same time more vernacular. I think we are inspired by Bawa's that blurring the boundary between indoor and outdoor. If you go to any Bawa's building, there you can see that you cannot tell which is outdoor and which is indoor. We try to bring that kind of ambience in our building. We try.
Yeah. Baba's building has a sense of timelessness. You never know. Even I think even after 500 years, if you look at that building, it will still have that spatial quality. And that to do in a consistent way in all the projects is astounding. I don't know. Maybe So that is something we always look and see how to get at least, a part of that kind of a spatial experience to part of our buildings at certain spaces. Yeah, he's been a major influence, I would say.
Thank you. We will now take up questions from the chat. So Sahil, if you could, tell the first question.
Okay. So this is question for from Tanvi for both the firms is that in order to encourage a more bottom-up practice than common top-down uh, common top-down practice, how do you provide opportunities for the local community if you use traditional methods of construction and design? Do you involve the local residents in both the design and building process?
Uh, I think if you look at the Rane project, we try to involve the local laborers and the materials. We did a small research about, did you see the pictures in the presentation about the temples and buildings around? All these buildings are they are made by, there's no special, how to say, mason or labor. The building owner, the client is the one who built those houses. So they are very well versed with this local material. If you look at all the images, they have random rubble in the lower level, like Santosh mentioned, and then you go to brick or clay or wood on top of that. So we tried to get inspired from that. And luckily, in that area, we had some good brick, fly ash brick or red brick manufacturers or terracotta jali manufacturers were there. We procured from those local vendors, and we try to, most of these villages has these how you say, Nurunal Velai Thittam in Tamil Nadu. They go to the 100-day scheme, which is given by government for every day to work for 100 rupees. So they don't usually go there. They just get the 100 rupees and then they lay off in their home. So we try to pull those people, make them work in our site after that. So
yeah. So, and sometimes when we do projects in other states or other places, we try to have the entire all the other consultants from the local place, because we learn a lot from them. We it's very tough otherwise to understand a place, just by in another place, being somewhere else. So we, and even in our North Star project, Earthscapes, like were the landscape consultants, and they gave us a lot of inputs on what would grow, what wouldn't grow, and what is the local plants. So it's always better, when we work on different projects, to consult with the local team there, because it's an earthquake prone zone, it falls in a zone. So all these things where people would already have knowledge about on how to go about it, and we try to fit in there with all the entire, and in a way client is also comfortable to work with zone team. So it's very healthy also. It's a process where they learn something and we learn. So most of the projects, wherever it's out, a little far, we always try to work with complete local community in terms of consultants, and then local labors. Because when you do bela, only a person who's worked with bela can do bela, not any, because you can't even carry the stone. So only a normal person. So the only the when you automatically then you start working with them. So it all depends on, back and forth of what material you choose, what ideas you putting forth, and it'll, the rest will, in a way you will find that will be the easiest way to go. So that also is one of the way we always have local consultants and local team to execute the project.
That same question, if Studioscape could answer as well.
Yeah. So I think when you start using local material, it's inevitable that you have to use the local, the be it the workmen or be it the techniques. I think when you start using the local material, you have to do that. It's inevitable. So also, for example, in the Tamil Nadu project that we did in the arts college. So we did use a lot of CRS masonry here in Hyderabad as well, for in various ways we could. But when we went there, we actually had this team of workmen who like around 30 kilometers away from the site, whom we actually asked the techniques that we could use. We wanted to use CRS masonry as a structural element only. Okay, so what they suggested is, instead of using the smaller blocks, we actually started using bigger blocks of them, and without any kind of reinforcement, we were able to take this structure up to 30 feet. That's about three-story building, just by using the local technique. So we got to learn a lot from them. I think it is very much necessary to do that. It's a learning process for us as well.
Thank you. If Aditi, you could take the next question, please.
Yes, so this is from Arun, and this is directed to Shanmugam Associates. He is asking, in your classroom projects, how are the safety measures taken in case of an emergency?
In case, see, the circulation, the classrooms are all positioned in such a way that each classroom is around 20 to 22 meter from the staircase, fire exit. One, and each classrooms have two exit and entry point. And all these classroom doors are not directly opening to corridor. The corridors are always 8 to 10 feet wide, and the directions are clearly mentioned, which is fire exit, which is fire assembly space. In fact, in Rane, they do a protocol in case of emergency, what students should follow, how students should be.
Rane being a industry, we do a safety audit of the project. So they come in and give us different suggestions on how high one simple thing like handrails. We avoid any horizontals in the handrails. It will be all verticals, little tall, no electrical points at reachable heights. So in terms of all these safety audits, we try to address them. There's another team which come and gives us inputs. And fire and other emergency norms, we follow all the bylaws and the national building code that gives us on the required number of fire exits per classroom or per space. We try to adhere to all the norms stipulated.
Thank you. Sahil, you could take up the next question.
Thank you. So this is another question from Tanvi, so her question is to Studio Inscape. Sustainable design is an important part of architecture, especially in today's climate. But as you said, sustainability doesn't automatically mean lower cost. Where do you draw the line with passive and active systems?
So when we actually start designing, as I said, it's a regular process that we follow, the way to orient or the wind directions and all. So this is at a at a macro level that we're looking at every time we design a building. But when it comes to urban context, sometimes you cannot it's a very packed or a very close knit structure, or you have a lot of buildings around, and by itself it has a microclimate. Every site has its own microclimate, and sometimes there is nothing much you can do about it rather than following our regular design rules and the way we are supposed to design. So I think there needs to be that balance, but it's not 100% every time that we are able to put this in practicality.
Thank you.
If there are any questions, the participants, the attendees can actually type it in.
We see a couple of questions in the Q&A section.
Yes. One of the questions is, the North Star School has a large span of flat roof. How did you plan to tackle the harsh perpendicular rays of midday sun? This is by Samya Hode. I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong.
So
Yes.
the North Star School, both the gardens have a really good shade from the first floor. Like I have mentioned in the presentation, they have 10 to 14 feet cantilevers. The courtyard, if you look at the image, we are planning to have huge creepers run along the courtyard width of that. So we try to reduce the harsh sun by that at the lower level. And the first floor has a really, really good green wall coming along all the building length.
So in terms of the flat roofs, we have tried our best to use, heat reflective broken mosaic white tiles. I have some certain places to have little false ceiling, and the height is also quite high. In institutions, at least back then when we did the idea of a sloped roof, we contemplated, but we wanted to keep the form simple, and the client also wanted the option of future expansion if possible. So that kind of limited us to have flat roofs. So we tried our best to address within that. And we have a lot of potted plants on the top in many places where we have creepers kind of coming from the top down to the bottom. So that's how we try to address the climate on the top roofs. And in certain places, we have created perforations at the edge of the slabs also. In some of the images, it should be visible, but yeah, if you look in the images, you can see them.
Yeah, I think we have two more questions. So after this, we could wrap it up. Sahil, do you want to take the last two?
Okay. Yeah. So I believe this question is to both the practicing firms. So what are the techniques you use to protect the building from greenery that is grown in the floor itself?
Do greenery, yeah, when we do greenery in the floor, like where you see the creepers, we have different strategies at certain places, like wherever it is not affecting the space below, or just to avoid waterproofing costs and some leaks in the future. We do planters nowadays, and we planter in concrete, and then we have FRP planters or other even small plastic, whatever that could even terracotta pots inside a planter. Because sometimes in these spaces, because of as much as it's interesting, it becomes a problem to address a leak or a water, other kind of maintenance issues if someone wants to go change the plant and things like that. So we work it as a mix wherever it's possible, and if it's really important, if or if it's going to be a chance, whether if we're not 100% sure, we'll do potted plants. And but sometimes if you're really good know that it's going to work there, then we'll do enough waterproofing and have it done. See, for the school also, if you look at the exterior facade, the entire beams are supposed to be planter boxes. The whole, all the entire beam we had envisioned in a way where it's going to be completely plants and then creepers kind of falling down. But because of the whole cost of waterproofing, maintenance, irrigation, all these factors come into play. So like and we couldn't do that. So whereas in North Star, the client was super supportive, and he loves landscape more than us, I guess. So and so he really took the challenge. And so most of the times these kind of aspects, it comes partly from the management. And how much it's easy to just put a plant, but someone has to take it, nurture it, talk to it, I guess, and then water it. So all this process, it's partly with the client and the management. Yeah, to answer that question, yeah, we use it as a mix. Wherever it's safe, we do regular waterproofing. Wherever we are not 100% sure, and some huge cantilevers, we do a lighter weight material as pots.
That's the same question I'd like to ask Studio Inscape as well.
So I'm not very sure about the context the question is being asked in, but sometimes we deliberately do it. Let's say, especially in the brick floorings that we do. So this the small plants or the grass that you see, especially during monsoons, is something that we do wantedly. So, you actually see the seasonal change in your flooring as well, right? So the character of the space changes from season to season. So sometimes it's very interesting to do that. And obviously at places, where we must avoid it, we do avoid it. And I think it's more, wood surface finishing or the right kind of drainage systems. And I think the most important, any building has to be maintained. So maintenance is one, it increases the lifespan of the building. Just by using the building regularly itself changes your, the way I look at it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you both. That would be all for the question and answers from the attendees. So
We would like to hand this over to the DU team right now.
Thank you so much, Santosh, Raja, Ramya from Shanmugam Associates, and Chaitanya, Radha, Kinara for sharing your wonderful work with us and for the conversation. We wish both firms all success. Thanks to our enthusiastic moderators for the day, Aditi and Sahil, for moderating the discussion today. For our audience, for joining us, DU and Clayworks team. Have a good evening and see you Saturday, 26th December for a very special conversation with a family of artists from Sri Lanka. I would like to request Kavindu from Design United team to share the upcoming series of events. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Studio Inscape and Shanmugam Associates, for your wonderful presentations today. Thanks to our moderators again, Aditya and Sahil, for an interesting and thought-provoking conversation. We'd like to extend our gratitude to Clayworks for supporting this webinar and all of our future webinars. So far, Design United has successfully completed 34 installments of design conversations, and we have many more exciting speakers lined up with designers across the spectrum joining us to share their thoughts. We're joined by more great speakers in the upcoming month. On the 26th of December, we're joined by the Ratnayaka family, artist JC Ratnayaka, artist and printmaker Tanuja, and artist Senuji in the design conversation. And at the start of the new year, we're very pleased to have architect Tanuj from Kerryhiller Architects for our in progress session, along with architect Sanjay Mohe on in practice from Mindspace Architects. Do also fill in a feedback form that will pop up on your browser about today's webinar. Join us and stay inspired. And so follow us on our social media for our upcoming conversations. Until next time, thank you, stay safe and take care.
Thank you, DU team, for the opportunity. Yeah.
Can I please request the speakers to stay back for a bit, just so we can get some feedback on today's session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Whenever anyone's ready, just we'd like to hear some feedback on today's session and what you think about the EU as a platform in general, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Well, it's been great. I think the overall idea of having two different, of having two people present also is interesting. So people get to see different works, and it's encouraging for us also. So the whole idea is nice. One thing was I was told that they were trying to reach you, and I think they were having little problems on that alone. Like the DU team, I think you could reach only by mail or something. So that was the only thing. But otherwise, everything is great. And
So I think great platform. I think when we were studying, we didn't get to see so much work of different architects, and we didn't really get to, experience and see different types of works basically. So I think it's a wonderful platform for students and I think young architects, and great initiative. And I think this is one of our very few first talks in our starting career. So thanks to you for that.
Okay, thank you so much, Architect Kinara and Architect Santosh, for your feedback, and we will keep in mind the points that you mentioned. I'd also like to thank Sahil and Aditi for doing a wonderful job engaging us today with their questions. So thank you, and for facilitating the audience questions. I hope that all of you stay connected because DU at its essence is about community. So we hope to see you again in the future. And with that, we conclude the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.